Peace.
Peace. How you doing?
What's that beat you're listening to?
Some of that Oh Noah Mad Lib.
That's fire. That's crazy.
Yes, sir. We're gonna let a few people log in, then we're gonna get
Yeah,
into it. Appreciate you
absolutely.
joining me today.
Yeah, man. Absolutely, man. I'm a fan of what you do. I love what you're doing, man. I always see your stuff. And my first reaction is super jealousy.
When you gonna give me that J-Roo poster?
I know it's sitting right here, bro. You gotta give me a trade, an equal trade to that one. I got some additions to the wall. I don't even know if you've seen. Hold on. Oh, I can't flip right now. This is bugged out. Why can't I flip my thing? Hold on.
Okay.
My thing's all bugged out. Yo, you know what? Oh, God damn. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. I got it back.
Ooh.
It's wild though too because and to be honest, I kind of like this, but it's from an original place.
Yeah, for sure.
It's from an original
I
record
got
shop.
I've got several like that torn off the wall, and I like
Yeah.
just how they are, just like that.
This one cost me a small fortune back when I bought it originally off eBay.
You know, I was in Chicago when the loud street promoters were passing those out. I could have got like 20 of them for nothing.
Man,
I
that's
was humble. I was humble. Just grabbed my little one. And I'm
yeah.
thinking, man, why didn't I get like 20 of them?
Do you know, did you happen to see a couple years ago when Self and I with Enemy the Illest were on tour and we were in Cleveland and we went to the old abandoned record store that Bone Thugs worked at?
I didn't see it.
Yo, I have mad videos of us go. It was like a time capsule. First, it was all dilapidated, and it was like how those people do when they go through, all the abandoned stuff, the urban exploration stuff.
Right.
And it was
Oh, yes,
absolutely
I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
yeah. And there was like unopened Main Source, Breaking Adams CDs and
Right.
cassettes. And
Right.
it was wild, but we got a what's up, GQ? We got a few of the like some of the demo CD or the first whatever they pressed up. We got some of those, and we were it was a good situation.
So how did it was an old record store, you say?
Yeah, it was an old abandoned record store, and it was just super crazy that it was all like we went to Walmart and we got like these whole suits. You know what I'm saying? Like and we had the masks on, we had the N95 masks on, and we had like the booties you put over your shoes because
Right.
there was like mold growing in there, and it was just totally abandoned. The roof was rotting out. Um, it was. I've been in the craziest hoods in the world, and this was the craziest hood that I've ever seen.
That's
Like
what
this
I
was
said.
the. It looked like a yeah, it looked like a war-torn war zone.
I've been all over the world, man. And actually, I'm sorry, Cincinnati's probably the craziest place I've ever been to out of all
Yeah,
the places.
yeah.
So crazy. What made you guys go to that store?
Self knew about it through like urban exploration videos and stuff like that. And he was just he told us about it. He's like, "Yo, let's go check this spot." And I was like, I don't really want to do that." And then he told me all the stuff that was probably in there. I was like, "Let's go." And some of the stuff, it was just wild, man. It was wild. It was literally like transporting back in time, man. Like some of them I knew I wasn't gonna take with me, but I just opened up some of the cassettes just to get that feeling again. You know what I mean? Like it's
Right.
wild. I have tons and tons of cassettes, but to see a box of them in there like that, like I said, like Breaking Atoms or Ready to Die or something like that, first generation, it was just really bugged out to see that.
So you left with a treasure stuff, huh?
We may or may not have.
I got you.
Yeah,
We're going to get into it. This is Quarantine Sessions, episode 11 with my man Apathy. Thank you for joining me today.
absolutely.
Before the coronavirus hit, what were you working on and what came to a halt at that point?
Well, I was doing my albums and I was really heavy with my real estate. And I still do real estate, but I halted all my showings and I kind of chilled out. And prior to Corona hitting, I was working on this album called Where the River Meets the Sea, and it's pretty much done now. And I started, the very early stages of this album I started doing with Stu Bangers. And for a lot of people, for a lot of artists, I think it's messing up a lot of artists because they can't get to their engineers. But I do my own stuff, and I have my own studio. And they travel and they have to go other places. But for me, um, that's my building right there where I live. And there's a driveway, and now I'm in my studio building.
Very nice.
So for me, I have the advantage of working here and recording, and then just I can record till whenever I want, go home and sleep, and I'm straight, or get up early and do whatever. So it really hasn't slowed me down. The only thing that's slowed down is my real estate wave.
What how has it affected your day-to-day activities?
My kids are home, my wife is home. So the kids with her is a lot of stress, and I kind of have to be there more than I'm like a super hands-on dad. Like I love being there for my kids. I do tons of stuff with my kids, but my daughter was in preschool. She's in pre-K. So now she's out of school. My mother and my mother-in-law can't babysit. So doing stuff with the kids, it's just like and the kids are bored. They can't go to playgrounds. We can't take them out to parks. So they have cabin fever. They're crazier. They're acting out. They're stressed out because they know something's up. So it's like I have to be more hands-on, and it's almost like I'm busier now that there's nothing going on as before when there was stuff going on and we had our routines. So it's a lot more stressful, and my day-to-day is absolutely crazy. It's like I have no time for almost anything. And it's so funny because you think with all this time you have, I know it sounds weird to say, but you think with all this time that we have from being sequestered, you'd have more time, but you have less time. So, right. Peace, just cuz.
Since you've been on lockdown, what have you learned about yourself?
That probably I have my father's temper. When my father was young, he had a really bad temper, and I find myself, I don't hit my kids. I don't beat my kids. If you spank your kids, I don't care. It's your business. But I don't hit my kids, but I have been snapping, like yelling, and almost to the point where it bothers me, and my daughter's already stressed because, like I said, she knows something is up, and it's just I find my temper getting short, and my father had that when I was a kid, and I'll snap, and I don't see it for like a 10 minutes until I calm down.
Right.
And I'm like, man, that's why my dad was like this back in the day. Being a father is no joke. And later on, my dad chilled out to be super zen and super chill and very wise. But when he was young, and think, my father had me when he was 18 years old. Mm-hmm. So being a young man, my father passed away. But somebody said, how was your dad? He passed away in 2012. Thank you. But he passed, and but I feel like I'm understanding a lot of stuff about myself, my temper, and then also another thing too. I went through a lot of anxiety and depression when I was younger, and I thought I had that mastered. But when you're put in this situation, the depression comes back out, and it's not even just like a technical depression where I'm like, oh, I'm so sad, life sucks. It's this depression where you don't want to do anything, and I procrastinate and I put things off, and it's just stuff like that. There's that type of depression, and there's a depression where I feel like I'm not going to get organized after this again, and I feel like the momentum's gone and the kinetic energy's gone, and I'm like, why does anything matter? And then I'm seeing friends, their kids are having birthday parties and they got fucking masks on, and it's just hitting me in the heart in a real way, and I'm just like, man. It sucks. And a majority of the things that happen to you in life are imposed upon you by other people who are being assholes.
Right.
And like when they decided to do the 9/11 shit, whether it was by grand design, which I feel, or if it was by, you know, terrorists like they say in their narrative, at the bottom line, it was somebody being an asshole and somebody doing some fucked up shit. And it's a vulnerable feeling when you have kids and you realize your world is probably going to be changed because of some dumb shit some other people are doing, whether it's out of greed or power or ideals or weird idealism. Um, it just it all sucks. So I feel like during this whole quarantine, and it's not even truly a quarantine, but during this whole quarantine thing, um, I feel like I've just been able to you know, truly see how vulnerable we are as a society, and I learned that about myself too. But it also has charged me. It charged me to take better care of my family and to be more, you know, diligent and on point and vigilant. You know,
What kind of preparations are you making just in case on down the road a second wave comes back around?
I need to get health for me myself. I'm the one who goes out and does the shopping because I'm very methodical and very on point with wiping down the groceries, and I don't forget to not touch my face and, you know, shit like that. But um, I feel like I need to get healthier. I need to eat better. I need to get my cardio up. If this thing, once again, the way I approach everything nowadays, because there's such a polarized thing that's happening with our society, the people who have the distrust and the mistrust, and then there's the government officials who are saying this, and there's this teetering back and forth of what to believe. And most logical people, most intelligent people are caught in the middle going back and forth. And I'm like, God damn, they're right. That's really creepy. The government's fucked up. And then I'm like, oh yeah, these people are going nuts. You know, this is a serious thing. So with that being said, I always try to stay in the middle and stay level headed. So I want to get healthy. I want to get on point. It's not about hoarding shit, but I feel like health is the first thing. So I really need to build a strong foundation and get on point with my cardio and my eating better and staying healthy. Because if this is a worse version of the flu, I don't want that smoke either. You know what I'm saying? And if it's like the flu or less, like some people say, I still would like to blow through it in no time at all and not take any risks. So that's really it. Health.
Did you have tours lined up that you had to cancel?
Yeah. We were gonna do a Canadian tour. And I kind of took the temperature of everybody and saw where my fans were at. And to be honest, what I thought was going to happen was sometimes my fans are a little gung ho and they'll be like, yo, yeah, fuck this corona, bro. We wanted to see you come out. But it was very realistic. It was the people. A lot of people were like, "Nah, that's not really a good idea, man. I don't want to go out." And our city is saying that that's not even going to open up by that point, and I don't want to be around a huge group of people like that. Yada yada yada. So it was a very big dose of reality as to we're not as ready as some people think. And what ends up happening is with humans, we get a little too comfortable too quickly. You know, it's almost like when you're a young man and you break your wrist and you're like, yeah, I get it, I broke my wrist, but I still want to go out and fuck around with my friends because it's not super pain right now. But it's like, yo, you got to go easy, you got to ease back into things.
Have you seen that your writing has changed since this coronavirus?
No, I mean, it's. I was just talking to. I hate name dropping. I'm not trying to name drop, but it just I became friends with Pharaoh Monch, and me and Monch were talking about it. And you know, any artist who has a soul is gonna speak about what's going on uh, in these times and days. It's like rock guys who and you know when the Vietnam War was happening, everybody was singing about that because it was something profound that was impacting your life. So we were talking about that today. That a lot of people are going to be rapping about that, but it hasn't really altered what I do or you know the approach that I take, and I think the approach that I take is just from you know decades of doing it over and over and over and getting more on point.
So, well, enough about this coronavirus talk. Let's get into a little bit of your history. You have a lengthy
Yeah.
discography, so I'd like to touch on that. We can't cover everything, but I just want to get your thoughts behind certain projects.
Okay.
Can you take us back to where you were born and raised at?
I was born and raised in Willimantic, Connecticut. It's a small town. It's I feel like it's predominantly Puerto Rican town, or maybe at least half. I mean, white people are always predominant everywhere in America for the most part. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like it's a huge town with a ton of Puerto Ricans that I grew up with, and who are like family. And it's a really strange place. It was very industrial. They had a lot of mills, textile mills, and then those mills went out of business, which kind of devastated the economy of where I live. And Dan Rathers did a series about it called Heroin Town, USA, and it had a big drug problem. And it was an interesting place. But I moved around a lot growing up. I moved around a lot in Connecticut, a whole bunch of little towns here and there. My parents divorced. I went back and forth between them, and even them, they were all over the place with moving from place to place. So I went to a lot of different schools, a lot of moving around as a kid.
Did you have any obstacles you had to endure growing up there?
Yeah, it was really stressful. My parents both had some problems with addiction when I was real young, and being staying with my mother. And don't get me wrong, my mother's a totally different person now. They were in their early 20s when I was a kid. My mother was 17 when she had me. So the normal shit that a 20-year-old's gonna do who was in that position, during that time period, and plus of our economic background of our family, the different boyfriends, the waiting for my father on the weekends, the whole thing like that. It was very stressful. It was a very stressful time. Matter of fact, when I was real little, I was having real bad anxiety and panic attacks, but I didn't know what it was. I could just tell something was fucked up with me. And I had no clue that it was anxiety or panic or anything like that. And then going to different schools, like the school that I mainly grew up in, I had my group of friends and I was thorough, and I had a lot of people who I was down with. Then you move to another school, people don't really fuck with you. They don't know you like that. You have no way to show you're legit, and until you just start hanging around people. People are already clicked up and they're already friends, so it's really fucking tough. And then I moved again and had to do the shit all over, and shit happened a few times like that. So growing up was stressful. It wasn't like wild. It wasn't like I lived some wild fucking youth where things were really fucked up for me, but they were just fucked up enough for me, so I had that level of stress and anxiety.
Who were some of your influences growing up?
Musically,
Yes.
oh shit. Earlier, I want to say by the time that I started paying attention to wanting to be a rapper, because I was obsessed with hip hop from the jump, but I didn't know there was really influences because I wasn't trying to be a rapper until like the early 90s. I would walk around freestyling and rapping younger than that, but I didn't take it seriously. I didn't have no fucking rap name or nothing like that until the early 90s. And then in the early 90s, some of my biggest influences were like um, Ice Cube was a huge influence on me. Like Ice Cube, Death Certificate, and Predator were really big influences on me wanting to start rapping. And then Souls of Mischief and Hyro was like everything to me because their flows were so astounding and crazy. And then obviously Wu Tang and Gangstar